Welcome to this week's Entrepreneurial Artist. I'm Chris Mercer and I'm with my lovely co-host, Kat Machin. And Kat, this week we're talking about motivation for artists because it's quite a thing, isn't it? We work by ourselves all the time, spend a lot of time by ourselves. We have to G ourselves up and get ourselves going. And sometimes you're just not feeling it. You're just not feeling it.
I feel like I've experienced this so much. Like, I feel like I'm the perfect test case for all of your amazing advice today. So sorry, Chris.
But like, really, when you think of it, if we're looking to do this as a profession, we can't wait around actually to feel motivated to get our bum into gear. So maybe that's just a little luxury that we think because we are an artist that we go, I need to feel motivated. So maybe it's even that mindset that we need to get ourselves out of that mindset to go, you can't wait till you feel motivated. This is something that you want to do and want to be successful at. So you just have to get down, sit down and do it.
I always think like motivation kind of comes in two parts. You've got the force that pulls you towards doing it, and then the force that's pulling you away to like block you. And like sometimes, we're expecting the forward pushing force, not realizing that we got all this back drag caused by doubts and insecurities or like whatever it is. And and I think that's been something that's plagued me I feel like I'm a reformed artist. But yeah, I think that's the thing that's really I've struggled with, like how perfectionism impacts motivation.
Is that like you comparing yourself, or is it, as an artist to others, or is it just you're just not feeling like, you talked about insecurity in that.
I think a bit of it is like imposter syndrome for me, at least anyway. Like, so I've done like a few good pieces, and then all of a sudden people expect that kind of level of like good pieces. And I'm thinking like, honestly, half the time it's like, I don't know how I pulled that off. Like, and I've got to do it again. And then it's got to be good. And I've got to try and top my last thing. And like, people are all like talking about like how good I am as an artist. And like deep down, I'm like, oh man, I don't feel that good. And like, I don't even feel like I can do it. And like, but it's not always like conscious sayings, but it's like there's some subconscious layer that's going on underneath, like not feeling like I can be good enough and therefore avoiding the task.
I think that's the thing though, isn't it? Because you find yourself not doing it, not moving forward, but it is that unconscious thing that you don't know why you're not getting there and sitting there and doing it. But the thing is, as we were talking earlier, is to just sit down and start is the biggest and probably the best thing that you can do, is just get yourself in that studio, get yourself to the desk and start doing something.
Yeah, I've watched a few people talk about the concept of motivation, and like in particular this idea that motivation is somewhat of a lie, because often motivation it's a basics around, like the word is around momentum, right? Momentum is only gained once you're already in the act. Like if you're driving a car, it starts off stationary, and you only build up momentum as you're going down the road. And I feel like but like I think that if you're looking at it as an insurmountable task, it's like the activation energy of just even getting started is a challenge. So and I think one of the things that one of my major revelations is like, be okay with the final result just being crap. Like, and I think that I don't know, that's a weird thing, because like you would think, but like, here's the logic, is that every time you do a piece of artwork, if your only focus is to have fun and learn something and just don't worry about the end result, the end result will always turn out. And if it doesn't turn out, you've learned something and you might have had fun, and the next time will be better. Because that old saying of like, there's 1,000 bad drawings in every person, and the only way to get them out is to get them out, so is to draw them. So I sort of feel like that once I stopped caring, it like stop giving a F about what people think, what you think that people will think, actually. Because like I think half the time people aren't even as hard as you are.
Definitely not. Definitely not. We're our worst critics. We're our worst critics, aren't we? You know, you show your work to people and they're just like, you know, amazed and love it, but you can look at it and pick it to bits if you wanted to, you know.
Yeah, there's like artist curse where you never get to see your artwork for the first time. You never get to walk into the room and just be like, oh, I'm pretty presented with all of it, because you've seen all the little stages and in between bits, and you've been focusing on what's not going right sometimes in order to improve it. Like there's like merit into that as well. But yeah, you never get to see the artwork for the first time. And like, certainly like when I've painted pieces and I've been like, I just paint over them in black just to start again. Because I like when I was like trying to just let go of having to worry about it, you know, it's not turned out, that's fine, paint it black, start again, like no big deal. But people are like, oh, no, you can't, it's so good. And I'm like, it's terrible.
I've had friends actually that they've taken pictures on their phone and then gone, it's just rubbish, you know, I'm painting over the whole thing. And a week later looked at the phone and went, oh my God, that was good. It was on, you know, it was good. You think we just get too close sometimes, don't we?
Yeah, like I even like doing little, like, so one of my things, like one of my motivational challenges, because I've actually had, and I think I've had months and months, like I'm a full-time professional artist. I've had months and months where I don't paint, and I've got like paintings half done because I've got them up to a point, and I'm worried that if I work on them, I'm going to mess them up. So I gotta just, you know what I mean? Because like sometimes you can just do, like, it's not so bad with oil paintings to a degree, because you can always wipe them back, you know. Headbutt the microphone. But you know, I think that was one thing, is this fear of failure actually. And like,
well, well, I can understand that when you've got the painting to a certain point, but then you must have knew that it wasn't finished yet.
oh yeah, and I was avoiding it like it's so funny because like logically that makes perfect sense. Just get in front of the easel, pick up a palette knife or pick up a paintbrush and just put some paint on. What's the big hold up here? But like internally, and it was funny because like I actually like wrote a diary about like why I wasn't painting, and like every time I came to paint, I would get like physically exhausted. Like I would feel like I was about to drop dead. Like no word of a lie, I would get like tingles all around my face. My neck would be tight, and I would get these like things like almost like shooting tingles down my spine, and like and even like and around my eyes, and it would feel like I was about to fall asleep. Those are like, you know, when you're like super tired and you start to get a bit like, I don't know if you've been super conscious when you're like trying about to go to sleep, like how the feeling of tiredness feels. But that's how I would feel. And then but it's like, and then I'd be like, oh, okay, well, I was going to do this painting, but maybe I should go and take a nap. So then I would take a nap, or I would go and like get distracted with something else. You know what I mean? And then I'd be stuck in these cycles of coming to paint, and then all of a sudden pangs of hunger come. I'm like, oh, like I've suddenly got to go to the toilet. And then it's like, and I really am a great follower of this lady called Marissa Peer. She's like a UK psychologist, like on the Tatler's Guide to Best Psychologists in the whole of the UK. And she's talking about like the mind does whatever you tell it to. So if you tell it, oh my God, this painting is destroying me, it's so exhausting, it's, you know, I can't do it, I'm going to fail. Your body goes, oh, holy shit, you're in danger. I'm going to take you out of danger by making you tired. And it wasn't until like that occurred to me that I was like, huh. So once I became aware, I was like, oh, okay, I'm feeling tired, but I'm not actually tired. I'm like, I get the physical sensations, but I'm not tired. I had plenty of sleep. But then I didn't know really what to do with it. So
what did you do with it? How did you?
You know what? And it's funny because in part of it, I feel like, I don't know if, you know, I don't know how many artists this really impacts. So I think that in part of it was like also a bit of ADHD as well, which, you know, I've recently discovered that I might have, and I'm in the process of getting diagnosed. But I think firstly, and that, the way that that plays into it is that I would get these physical symptoms of tiredness, and then I would just go and do something else. And often it was work related. So it wasn't like, I was still emailing clients and checking up and doing social media and doing posting and doing promotions and writing, promos and setting up stores. And like, it wasn't like the time was not done doing work, but it wasn't in front of the easel.
Yeah.
So I had to break down, like, why am I worried about doing this artwork? Firstly, obviously, that whole fear of failure. And that was where you just cannot care about the end result. Like, just trust that if as long as you are trying your best and having fun and trying to learn, that it will turn out. Right. And if it doesn't turn out, you'll have learned something and it'll be fine. But worrying about the end result is not productive in any way at all. And it won't make your end result better. It'll make it worse, because it's like hard. It's like, it's setting a goal that is almost like perfection is paralyzing. You want to aim for excellence, not perfection. And even excellence is too high. Sometimes you just have to aim for doing something, just to make a line, whatever it is.
Yeah, just sometimes even just putting a great big load of paint on, like with me with the palette knife, just going for it when I feel like, I don't know what to do and things like that, because then you've done something which will make something else happen.
Right.
Because perfectionism, you're going to be too careful as well with your canvas, aren't you? So you're not going to be as adventurous as you would normally be. So it's going to really work.
And I think especially with in fact, with any work, right, you can tell how confident someone is when they're going into it, how they like delicately trying to paint down things where they're just like, like, oh shit, that person's confident. You can feel it. Feel the vibe in an artwork.
Yeah.
And because you've had this as well, like you've said that there's been a development over time for your art pieces.
Oh, definitely. Definitely. Yeah. I think any artist can see that through their work, hopefully. And that's only through doing enough pieces and just keeping at it, isn't it? So yeah,
there was that. And then I was like, well, what else is there? What else is holding me back? And actually what I realized is this massive level of guilt about being an artist. So having this preconceived idea that artwork isn't real work, and therefore I should be doing real work, like, sitting on a computer and processing spreadsheets and, doing business meetings and everything else was considered real work, but painting was considered like, oh, just a bit of fun. It's not real work, but it is. Like, that's actually my job, right? And I think that's something we do need to talk about, because I think there's a proliferation that, doing art isn't real work. It really bloody is. Like,
it is. Yeah, it is. But I suppose that's something that I think we've talked about this before, haven't we, between ourselves? Like, because we're having so much fun doing it, we're enjoying it so much that the notion even of work is like, and other people have all this in other professions, that they love what they're doing. But I suppose maybe it's painting is such a thing from a childhood as well, and can be just a play.
Right.
Maybe it's that, but we were having so much fun doing what we're doing that you sort of go, is this really work? Is this really? And call it what you like, really. We don't need to put the labels on it, do we? You'd have to get down and do it. So the motivation to do it is, for me as well, as a big thing, is having goals. So I think we talked about this in the planning, and having your purpose. So having the purpose why you do it makes you move forward. But also for me, planning every week. If I don't have my plan in front of me and then saying, what I've got to accomplish that week, then I can go off and, lose motivation. It's just, you just don't start to think that that's important. You start doing other things. But if I've got in my plan that I need to complete this, then that really helps me. So accountability, maybe.
Accountability is a big one, because also, and that's a challenge, that I think that's another one of my major hurdles. And I think this is also like so this concept of body doubles, so like having someone there whilst I paint is something that's really important. And like because if I don't have someone there, it's not that I'm trying to avoid it, but you know, I'm less likely to go off and organize my sock drawer or do something random if there's someone else there. They don't even have to be like, they don't even have to be like watching me particularly, but just having presence. And I've recently found like Twitter Spaces, I've been using them and like talking to people all over the world whilst I'm painting. It's so much that I painted till 4 a.m. last night. So, you know, and this is me. Normally I'd sit down, and if I did it did 10 minutes, I'd be like, you know, because like I sort of needed that company, because it is like I realized I didn't really like being alone whilst processing all of these things. I'm used to working in an office environment where I'm surrounded by people, and it's always, you know, you just always feel connected. And I felt very disconnected from other people and a tribe. So I've really liked that as a solution as well.
That's great.
But
it's a great
yeah,
idea, because you've married two things as well, haven't you, that
right.
that you
It's in me
need.
marketing.
Well, marketing as well, the connection with people, you know, you're connecting with people, and that's something that you need. Mine's not as productive as yours. I like a bit of Netflix. So I
Oh,
can
you
just
know
put
what?
that
That's
on,
fine.
any stuff that sort of I've seen before. So I've got noise in the background, it's going on, and then I'm happy as Larry, you know, that gets me painting away. So it is
I
that
think
thing, isn't it? Find some things as well to go, well, while I'm painting, is there something else I need to that will enhance the experience for me? It might be beautiful music for you.
I agree. Yeah, so like making the environment comfortable, you know, put on your favorite tunes, put on a murder mystery, or have some exciting drama going on in the background, whatever it is, you know, listen to that, be on a stage and talking to people that are in a similar field to you on Twitter Spaces like I do. However it's done, have a glass of wine, or maybe not too many, get squiggly lines, but you know, just set the scene and make it enjoyable. I think that does actually help, you know. And also, you know, I think that in the past I've always had art studios that were like too hot, too cold, or I was physically uncomfortable being in that. And I think just being aware that making your environment a comfortable place to exist in does
That's
also,
really
I think that
important.
doesn't.
Yeah, because
Yeah,
you're not going to want to go down to your studio or in your room to paint if you're thinking, oh, it's just going to be cold, it's going to be that. It's just another obstacle, isn't it? Another layer of resistance that you're just putting in front of yourself there.
you know what, that's a good point, is like actually looking at the resistance points between you and painting. So, you know, having all your equipment, you know, at the end of your session, laying out all your equipment so it's ready for the next time. You know, and having enough brushes if you're not going to clean them there and then, that you can just carry on next time. And having like, without being like, oh, I can't paint because I've got a big bucket of brushes to deal with. Do you know what I mean? Like if you can remove that as a level of friction, then I think that does help a lot. And especially like the temperate climate in your studio is important. Just although that said, like when I was in the UK, I finished a bloody painting and it was -5. Jeez. I was like in gloves with a little thing with like a fur. Oh Lord.
Well, you know, that's
Never
great
again, Chris.
yeah, when you're in the mood for it, nothing stops you, does it? You know, when you really
Right.
feel like doing it, it doesn't matter what's going on. It's these times that you know, you've got that resistance there. And then I never leave my studio, my workplace without my my board is clean. Like I'm a palette knife, so it's very easy to clean. So you know, that's a bit of a cheap thing there. So that's really easy. They're all cleaned up, and my paints are all lined up in a row, and everything's set up there for next time I go in.
Nice.
Because I know, and that's, I suppose, another thing is knowing what you need. I know if I go in there and it's shit fight and the stuff all over the place, I'll do all that and tidy it all up, and then I'll think, oh well, I'm not starting now. I've just tidied it all up. You know,
Right.
so it maybe knowing what you need and what serves you.
I think the reason why I was painting so furiously in the UK is because I had this hard deadline, because I knew I was leaving the country and I had to finish it. But there's a lot to be said for setting deadlines. And even if it's like, you know, like, I know that it's hard if it's like a made up deadline, but you could, for instance, if it's a commission painting, set a deadline for a meeting with a client to present them something, so that, you know, just to maybe have an interim meeting or a stage where he can present them something. And then that creates some sort of level of pressure that is helpful. That's like, if you think about the two opposing sides of motivation, that's more like the pulling side, which is like, oh, it's the panic monkey. I like to like, but get it done. It's like coming up in a couple of days, you know what I mean? So I think that can help greatly. Just setting interim stages. Now, one of the things for me was like, I could never just write on my checklist, just do the painting, because the painting took like months. So one of the tricks I had was like saying, well, I'm going to do an hour on the painting, or like I'm going to spend X amount of time on the painting each day. And then having that as something that is measurable and you can tick off and so on. And that really helps. I think it really, really helps. And like, even like, I mean, even if you're like feeling adventurous, this comes into like next week's show title, but you know, you could live stream your painting. You know, there's lots of people that do that. You know, you could literally have people in the studio, and you can have a regular time slot that you go and paint, and people are there waiting for you, and there's some sort of level of pressure that will help you, but also potentially could keep you company as well. Because
that sounds great. That sounds a real pressure pot, that one, to perform.
Right.
But that's
that, I find it okay and hard. Like, it depends what I'm painting, because I think like if it's one of these really big pieces, like it takes ages and it's a little boring, I would imagine. But if it's one of those small ones, like, I can whip them out in 2 hours. So
that's our opinion.
But that is true.
Watching. And then people can pop in and out, I suppose, can't they?
Yeah. I think a lot of people watch those live streams of artists because it's very relaxing, you know, just, you know, gently watching this thing come into existence, and especially if you're talking through what you're doing and so on.
My thing is, I'm great when I've got a project on, you know, when I've got a painting on the go, no problem. It keeps me going in that. It's in between when I go, well, what do I want to do next? You know, when I'm just doing one for my website and trying to decide on which painting. So I collect images through you know, that I'm interested in, and try and build up a collection. So when I actually come to, oh, it's time to do it, I've got a whole load of images to try and get the ball rolling for me. But that's my main one, where the motivation, but that's just not knowing what I want to paint yet. And I know that, but it's well, like, it takes time to get me back into the process.
Indecision is, I think, one of those things that does lead to procrastination, very much so. And that's a good point. Like, we've spoken about like the motivation as an artist to paint or create, or, you know, shoot photography or whatever it is, but not necessarily the motivation around all the other stuff, because, you know, the creation, as much as I would love it to be 100% of my time, there's a lot that goes into an art business to make it successful. Like the motivation to do my accountancy work, or the motivation to do the book work, or to do the things that you're a bit like, you know, some people love them, some people hate them, but you know, so that, you know, and I will go back to one of our friends, Albert, who always says, more of what you love, less of what you tolerate, and none of what you hate. And it's about delegating the things that you don't love doing. Like, I don't do my own accountancy work. It would be terrible if I bloody did anyway. I get it all wrong. So maybe that's a bad story I'm telling myself, Chris. But
you don't want to do it,
I think also,
you know, if you don't
I think, well, what was it, Dr. Joe Dispenza talking about values? I know, was that right? And it, you know,
DeMartini talks about values.
DeMartini, sorry, wrong doctor. The other doctor. DeMartini, and the DeMartini process on values. Like, what do you value? Like, you know, he didn't value cooking, didn't like it, so just chose never to cook. like always. And you might think, God, that's crazy, you know, or like just didn't like driving, chose to never drive, never driven himself in
Yeah. And he's
however many years.
not IT as well, is he? He just about doesn't need
Yeah.
it apparently, which, you know, he's massive and he's huge. But I suppose that's the thing, that we can delegate other things like that, but it's painting is, we have to do the painting.
You have
By the
to.
motivation,
So,
we have to be there for the painting. But there's a great book
right.
called The War of Art, and the crux of that whole book really is the resistance, and and because it's for writers, artists, any creators, and basically it's what we sort of started off with. Sit down, designate some time to do it, and just start. Even if it's scribbling, if you're writing, it's just scribbling, doing whatever, you just start something. And I don't know about you, Kat, but when I sit down in front of a canvas and I think, I don't know what I'm doing, or I don't feel like, or whatever, when I start, probably
It starts.
it doesn't take 5 or 10 minutes or for me to be absolutely just into it. And, you know, it can be 3 or 4 hours later where I sort of think, oh, that was great. I really enjoyed that.
That is actually a good thing to talk about, because I sometimes have that experience, but sometimes I have something totally different where I'm struggling with a painting and it's not turning out. And maybe it's like a skill thing. And I always say paintings and artwork and all of that creative stuff often look like shit until they look good. And sometimes your process, that making it look good, might happen right at the very end. So you sort of have to like wrestle with a painting that looks, you know, all the way for hours until all of a sudden it turns out and you go, oh, that's it, nailed it.
Yeah.
And just accepting that that's part of the process, because it's funny, because, you know, some people will be like, I can't do art. I can't even do a stick figure, right? You know, it's almost the most common thing. You know, when you have a gallery, someone's like, oh, I don't know how you do that. I couldn't even draw a stick figure. God bless. Right. But a stick figure is the very first stage of drawing a cartoon, right? You draw the little stick figure, right? And then you draw the body and the muscle and all that other stuff over the top. And kind of painting is the same, right? You start and you build up on top. Now, I know that some people have like where they do almost like a bloody like printer. Do you know what I mean? It's 100% done in patch, which I feel like often, and that's another thing actually, you know, when you watch videos of artists and they make it look so easy, and then that comparison of like, oh, it's not easy for me, I'm no good, I should just stop, you know.
I don't think it's easy for anybody, really, because you were stretching ourselves all the time, aren't we? You know, we're pushing and we're learning. So, you know, that I think that's an illusion. I choose to think that's an illusion.
It is an illusion, but I think it's one that it's like people aren't aware that it's an illusion, because, you know, and it's like this Instagram versus reality situation where you're like, God, it looks so easy for them. Why haven't I got my shit together? You know, but what you're not realizing, like I did a painting for a TikTok, right? It took 60 seconds and it turned out. But what no one saw was that I did this painting 16 bloody times, and it took all day, because every time I got it wrong, I had to wipe the canvas back, had to reset my station, had to clean all my brushes, had to clean the palette, had to lay out the paint and do it again, right? And all of that was, you know, and set up the cameras and do all the angles and like do all of that crap every single time, 16 times until it turned out okay. Wow. And it's like, so I feel like I'm also pushing that fallacy. I did actually write in the caption, bloody hell, this took me 16 times, right? But it was just as easy to not say that, to say, you know, it's just, you know, I'm just, you know, it just turned out 60 seconds. Oh, so easy just to falls out of my paintbrush, which sometimes it does. But like, in order to be someone where that happens, you might most likely have had to go through years and paintings and paintings and paintings where it doesn't turn out straight away. It takes ages, and you have to sort of wade through the quagmire of like, it's looking a bit
I think that's maybe sometimes what mood we're in as well. You know, if we're in the flow, I've been in paintings in the flow and done big paintings in 8 hours, and other ones have taken 3 weeks to do the similar kind of thing, because I've just been in the zone and that. So you know,
how'd you get into the zone, Chris? That's the $1 million question.
With this painting, it was a commission. And I was
Right.
concerned about it because I'd never done, it was a big budgie, and I've only done little ones. So this was a
Right.
big thing. So I was concerned. So I just went over it in my head. How am I going to do that? How am I do that? And I'd painted it in my head 10 times before I'd even set a brush on the canvas. I know, it was like, why don't I do this all the time? So when I came
That's some serious tips.
well, when I came to actually paint it, it was just like, you know, it was just happening really. And yeah, I said it was super, super quick. I know. So, it's not something, you learn these skills and you think, well, that's not something I put into practice regularly. Maybe I should. I'll write that down. It's a write it down.
That's a write it down. Right. Everyone write that down. Visualizing it in your head before you do it.
But
You know what? There was a
athletes do it, don't
study.
they? Athletes
Yeah, I was
do
just
it, so
the basketball study, right? They got 3 groups of people, one group that didn't practice, one that did physical practice, and one group that just did practice, but in their minds, like
yeah.
in their heads. It's something like, obviously, the people and they tested how good they were at shooting hoops or something. And of course, the people that didn't practice were terrible. The people that practiced were pretty good, but almost as good was the people that just thought about it. Like, and it was almost indistinguishable, the results wise, or it was so good that it was like massively different from just not doing anything. And all they were doing is doing it in your mind. Like, and do you know what the funny thing is, Chris? In my head, I was like, oh, I'll just try and shoot a hoop in my basketball in my mind. And I bloody missed in my own mind. When I was like, this is why I'm not a basketball player.
Oh, God. Oh, it's like
this is not how it's meant to work.
You're a loser in your own head. That's serious thing.
That's a true story. Yeah, you got
but you know what?
Focus on your winning.
Yes, I didn't just just visualize it. I suppose emotions and everything were there because I was concerned of how the hell am I going to do this. I've said yes. I love putting myself in positions where if somebody wants a commission, I can make it happen. I know I can do it, but sometimes I take things on and I think, shit, how the hell am I going to do it? But I always find a way. And this was one of them. So it brought up lots of things of like, I really have to get this right. So it was really intense. So I think that makes
it's so well. Yeah, and I think actually commission is an important thing to talk about, because I think a lot of people struggle like I don't know, I don't want to generalize, but I know that there are people that struggle with like getting motivated for commissions, in particular if you're taking like the full payment up in front.
Yeah. Oh yeah.
And then like, what's the motivation to do it? And also like, because it's kind of half someone else's vision, depending on your painting process, and if you allow that can also sometimes impact, because people might be like, oh, I'm taking a commission, I'm not really into this subject, and which I feel like interviewing the person to make sure that you're okay with working with them, but also that you're okay with the style and being really like, this isn't my style. Like I always have people going, oh, can you draw this picture of a face for me? I'm like, I'm not a portrait artist. Go ask a portrait artist. When have you ever seen me do pictures of faces? I can do them. I can do it. It's not like I can't do them, but like I'm not interested, not even like remotely.
That's another podcast, I think, Kat. I think that'd be a great podcast.
That is another bloody podcast. Yeah. Like interviewing for clients, and that there's a whole system for that. But yeah, well, we've gone all over the place with this one, but motivation is a massive topic, and if you can nail it, you can really succeed as an artist. So what are your top 3 things, Chris?
Top 3 things. Keep inspired. I suppose that's one of my things, because when I finish a project, it's like, well, how am I going to keep inspired? So it could be watching YouTubes of other people's art, learning new techniques, going to a gallery, just looking around for inspiration. So whatever inspires you, keep that going. And maybe if it's learning something else, because I think to keep us motivated, we've got to be fresh and feel like things.
Like a bit of variety.
Yeah, I do like variety. Yeah. Yeah. So keep inspired by just looking around, seeing what's going on. If somebody's doing something that excites you, start looking at that and have a go. Second one is rest, because sometimes we're just pushing ourselves all the time, aren't we?
Guilty. Paying until 4 a.m.
But that's great because you were so inspired and caught up. So I think that's fabulous. It's when it's not working. When it's not working and we're pushing and we're pushing and we're pushing, and it's like sometimes just stop and maybe go back to what inspires you, because if you've got to that stage, you can also be feeling like you're getting over your passion and getting over art, which is really sad. So you don't want to push it, so you get that you just don't want to do it anymore. So it's like, make sure you have enough rest from it, and then keep yourself inspired by new exciting things. My third one is goals, because that works for me. Goals and planning, because they are like my what did you call it before? My it's like my motivation, because I will have on my goals that I have to do this and this week. So I will commit because I've put them down that this is what I want to do this week. So when week clicks over on the Sunday night or Saturday, if I haven't done them, I'm like, oh God, let's get them finished, let's get them done, because I suppose I've made the commitment to myself. So that does.
You're very good. I struggle even if I make the commitment myself. I'm just a bit like, but what I do is I will do that goals, and I'll make them SMART goals, but then I will book a meeting or a session with someone to go over stuff. So I kind of do that, but just kind of like utilizing a third party, either to be there while it's being done or to be there to give the results. Because then there is some sort of actual like pressure. I need it.
All of this is everyone finding out what works for them. So start being aware of, you're doing this, that doesn't work for me because I still don't do it. Okay. Try something else. What else can you do? Like Kat, get in a chat room. That works. And that might work for you. So well. And all these things might change, because that might work for you for 3 weeks, 4 weeks, and you think, oh, I need a bit of variety, I need to change that up.
Right.
I'll go live. That's okay.
It's true. It's true.
Options, you say? You like options, don't you, Kat?
A lot. We gotta have good options. So those are your three? Excellent. Well, my three are, my first one is body doubling. And once I discovered this term, it sounds a bit morbid. It sounds like, you know what I mean? It sounds like a corpse, but having someone there or something there, or like having a presence there helps so much. And it can be done in a way that can double the benefits. So I'm in these like Twitter spaces talking to my friends or peers about interesting topics. And like, you're not talking all the time because there's 9 people on stage, right? But occasionally someone will say something and you can come over to the, I have like a ring light that has like a mobile phone holder. So that's holding my phone whilst I'm painting, and I just pop over and I'll mute myself and say something. And so it keeps me engaged in the process. It makes me feel like I'm part of a community, or I'm not, solitary or alone at that point. Or you could also do it with live streaming, or, often I bring my team in, my team will come and sit with me. Now, I know that that's not for everybody, but for me, it's been good because I explain what I'm doing to them. And then, they get the experience of understanding what's going on behind the scenes, because most people don't get to see that. But if you've not got a team, it could be a friend, or it could be another artist, it could be someone else. So you both got a bit of work to do. And then you just both log in and do a, Google Meets or Discord or Zoom, even whatever you want to do platform wise, and just get online and both have a little work session together. It's sort of like, we think about like in school, like people used to have like study partners and all of that kind of stuff. That is body doubling, and that really, it really helps for me. The number 2
like the
is,
Zoom thing now, like it's so familiar for everybody, isn't it? So just having your mate on
yeah,
Zoom while you're both painting, that's a fabulous idea. Yeah.
yeah. And I mean, even if it's a family member or something like that, and
Mm.
there's so many apps now, and you know, as long as you've got a phone or a computer, which of course, if you're watching or listening to this, you would definitely have, you've got the ability to do that.
Mm.
Um, you know, because of course, like it's not necessarily physically possible right now, given all the situations, but also, you know, the person that, you know, it's, so you don't necessarily want to drag your you know, direct family members and or significant others, because they might not be that interested in what you're doing. But you might have a friend somewhere else that is, you know.
Yeah.
um so number 2 is don't worry about the end result. Honestly, it doesn't matter. And I say that with love and peace, because the end result will be the end result, whether you panic about it and worry about it or not. Worrying about how it's going to turn out, or like fretting about whether it's going to turn out, will not make you better. In fact, it will make you worse. So don't worry about it. Focus about the step by step in the moment. Focus on having fun, making some lessons, making mistakes. Like, accept that it might turn out crap, and that's okay, because it's progress. And so progress over perfection every single time. Just don't worry. Just don't give a fuck. And don't worry about what other people might think about your artwork, or, you know, which, oh God, I know that that is easily said than done. But generally speaking, it just does not matter. Really doesn't matter. Even the worry, even, and I know this sounds terrible, don't worry about what your clients think about your work, even if you're painting for them, because again, that is a thought process that will lead you down a path of anxiety that will not, it will not yield results. Like, just focus on learning and having fun. And if you want to be confident with yourself and be like, I've got this, I can do it, you can have some affirmations, do those. But if that's not you, just be like, I'm okay learning and playing and having fun. And, you know, if it doesn't work out, I can do it again. It's okay. You know, take the pressure away from yourself. Number 3 is make it enjoyable. You know, music, wine, turn the task into something fun, listen to Netflix, get on a call, you know, just make it enjoyable, including the environment. Make sure that you're comfortable, that, you know, have a good bloody pair of slippers and a nice comfy chair, if that's how you like to paint, you know, whatever it is, nice cup of tea.
Yeah.
And you know, and have something on that makes you enjoy the process, because it's not meant to be like, I think there's a fallacy that work has to be hard and difficult and you got to whip yourself, you have a terrible time, Chris, you know, because that's not how it works. Meant to be, really have a good time with it.
Yeah. Because
even if, oh, sorry.
say, being an artist, you've got to have a good time being an artist, because it will show in your work.
It does. When I get frustrated, you can tell straight away. So, you know, like sometimes actually that's another thing, you know, learn to rest rather than give up. And I think sometimes you do need to just have a little walk around the block, or you know, a little break, and that's okay. And I'm going to sneak in a sneaky fourth, because I always do that. I'm the worst. It's small steps. You know, I heard this person talk about this one stroke. Just do one stroke. Like, when you come to it, if you can't bring yourself to paint, just put one stroke down on the paint canvas, one stroke more. It's a step in the right direction. And if you feel like, oh, I can do a couple more, do a couple more. And if you don't, be okay with saying, that's fine, I'm out of here, I'm gonna just have a break today. But just do that one, right? Just break the barrier of that one and be okay, and not be like, oh, I'm just going to say, my girl, you know, I know that I've got to do just one, but actually I'm going to do like 2 hours. Because in your mind, you're like, yeah, I'm not going to do that one stroke. Be like, if I don't feel like it after that, you know, doing a couple strokes, if I don't feel like painting, that's fine. So yeah, small steps. Because like that's like the whole way to eat an elephant. Like, sometimes I'm doing paintings at 6 months. You got to just take it a step at a time, or a bite at a time, you know. So
Beautiful.
that's mine.
Beautiful. They're great.
Any last things to say, Chris?
I suppose working by yourself, I suppose you have to be disciplined as well. And that's all about setting your goals and what?
I would say routine, actually.
Yeah.
And habits. You know, discipline for me is just a series of habits. I got a good story about habits, about routine. Can I tell you?
Yeah.
So I read this book, story time. I read this book called The Power of Habit, right? And I can't remember, is it Charles Duhigg?
Don't know it.
I'm sorry, I probably got it bloody wrong. Sorry. It's because I wasn't expecting to tell the story. Anyway, Power Habit. And I thought, this is cool. So what I'll do is I'll try and do like morning habits, morning routines. And it talks about this idea of having an activation energy. So it's very easy to tack on something to an existing task. Let's say every time I brush my hair in the mirror, I will remember to stand up tall, right? It's like you can attach it to something.
Right.
So I was like, well, can I have morning routines? Like, and to build this discipline. So I was like, start off, get out of bed, make the bed in the morning. Cause I never used to do that. I used to be a messy bed person. Ugh, can't even stand that now. Right.
Yeah.
So I was like, okay, so I'm going to do this. And it said, on average, somewhere between 14 and 32 days, and you can form a solid habit. And I was like, right. So every morning I'd get up and I'd like, you get like a bit of energy in you when you first start off something. But then like, as you go on, you sort of, I made a few mistakes, and like halfway through the day, I'd realize, you know what? I just remembered I need to go make the bed and I didn't do it early. So go off. And note that I didn't say, I've forgotten to make the bed. I was always like, you have to be like, I remembered that I need to make the bed. So using the correct language, and then off I go, make the bed, and I would forget every now and then. And, like towards like week 2, 3, I was forgetting a little bit, but, it's getting a bit better in week 3. And then I come to week 4 and I was doing all right, but there was this one day where I totally forgot to make the bed. And it was like, I don't know, 4 or 5 p.m. And I just remembered all of a sudden, oh God, you know what? I was like a bit bummed out because I thought, it's 4 weeks in. You would have thought that I'd have bloody got this habit down, and I've forgotten again. I was a bit pissed off with myself. So, and then I went into the bedroom and I had realized that my partner at the time must have made the bed because, he'd seen that I'd been making all this effort and, sort of wanted to help me out. So, and I really appreciated that. So I went into the living room and said, oh, you know what, thank you so much for making the bed. Like, I know that you've seen me trying to do this new habit and you've sort of just given me a helping hand. I appreciate it. And he just looked at me and was like, you're an idiot. I didn't make the bed. You made the bed. And I was like, what? I had subconsciously made the bed, didn't even know I'd done it. And I was like, whoa.
Like,
I was like, what else can I do this as a habit? So like, I built in other habits now with like an activating starting point. So like I empty the dishwasher every time I put the microwave on. Right. And now it's a little race against the microwave. second dishes, right? But it's a habit now. And now I do it without even thinking. And I think sometimes like this concept of like motivation and getting into it, if you don't have that motivation, it might be because you don't have that built-in habit. So it's like, how can I build in the habit into my day to go and paint? Or like every time I do something, I go and paint. Like right now, I love being in Twitter space. I know I'm talking about it a lot, but it's amazing. But every time I'm on Twitter spaces, it's now a habit to pick up a paintbrush. And I have painted more on my, and because like I could paint before on my little tiny ones that were like easy to do, and I could whip them out in 2 hours, and I could do one of those a day easy. But the big commissions would still like be stand there in the corner of the room looking at me like, you doing another painting for? You should be working on me. So the power of habits and that in motivation. Anyway.
Love it. We better get out of here, Cass.
Right, we better get out of here. So if you are listening, what are your challenges whilst getting motivated? If you have any suggestions for future episodes, don't forget to let us know. So don't forget to follow us on all the socials. We'll put the links in the descriptions. Actually, one of our followers suggested a topic for next week. So next week we are talking about confidence in front of the camera. Just like to say thank you for listening, and we will see you next time.